All right. If you just tuned in, welcome to the Green Team Summit. You were just tuned in with DJ Antonio Caesar, and you are in for an exciting day at the Green Team Summit, Rooted for Healing today. I'm going to officially pass it on to Brian Sauter for an introduction, who is the Executive Director of Faith in Place. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 6th Annual Green Team Summit. I am Reverend Brian Sauter, Executive Director of Faith in Place. And can you all join me and give him some love and shout out to our DJ, Antonio Caesar. Come on, if you were feeling the DJ, say hello. I see people clapping, snaps, say hello. Go follow him at DJ Antonio Caesar. Not only is he our youth program coordinator here at Faith in Place, but he's also DJ Antonio Caesar. Book him for your next gig. Make sure you give him some love and shout out. Hey, we made it. 6th Annual Green Team Summit at Faith in Place. For those of you who are new to our organization, Faith in Place is an organization that empowers people of all faiths, people of justice, to be leaders in caring for the earth, providing resources to educate, connect, and advocate for healthier communities. We have been doing this work for over 20 years to bring healing to our communities through programs and education that reimagine what our world could be if we embody justice and healing. This past year, as you all know, has been especially difficult for many of us. From COVID-19 to the racial divide in the United States, pain and loss is palpable. That is why we chose to dedicate this Green Team Summit to healing, an experience we feel a deep need for in our own lives and as we look around in our own communities. Stepping back from the past year, we also see how our environmental crisis is a cry for healing. We believe our social and climate crisis is caused by centuries of disconnection from our land, our neighbors, and ourselves. So this week at this Green Team Summit, we hope and plan to share inspiring stories and practices that can invite each of us to new levels of healing. As Thich Nhat Hanh said, in order to affect change, we must first recover ourselves. One must be whole. So our summit's 6 sessions will invite you to practice different ways that will help us reconnect with ourselves, our spirits and souls, and thus help us heal and love our communities and our shared common home together. Now, even though this is a virtual event, we have designed each session to be interactive so you can join in the healing practice with us, and we hope you feel refreshed and inspired leaving the summit together. I want to invite you now to join me in watching a preview video of all that we will explore together over the next few days. Okay, what an exciting lineup that we have. Come on, is everybody excited for the Green Team Summit, 6th Annual? Rooted for Healing is our theme. I just want to give some shout out to all of our staff. We as a staff team, we have 23 full-time staff working across Illinois, coaching our amazing green teams, 180 different green teams that are diverse and united for healing and creating healthier communities. And many of you are on tonight. Shout out to each of you. And as we prepared as a staff team, diverse from our various regions, diverse from our different religions, diverse racially, we have sought to embody healing for ourselves and for each other as we come to you for this summit. And we're so excited to bring you into the space where we can be and find that healing that we all long for, be refreshed as we continue to seek to create healthier communities in our world. All right, if you can't tell, I'm fired up, I'm excited. I've been speaking too long, but I would be remiss if I didn't say a big thank you. This event is possible and free for everyone to attend because of our generous sponsors. I want to give a shout out to NRDC, Natural Resources Defense Council, as our generous headline of the entire summit sponsor. I also want to share our gratitude toward the Gaylord and Dorothy Donnelly Foundation for sponsoring tonight's keynote session. Can't wait to hear from all of our Eco-Womanists this evening. You can get to know all of our sponsors and partners on our event website. Go to greenteamsummit.org. And it's our sponsors and donors like you that allow us to offer this event free. If you'd like to support, please go to faithandplace.org and click donate. My team told me I think we're about $7,000 shy from our goal this year for our Green Team Summit to cover our costs to make this possible. So every dollar that you can give helps us with that cause. Go to faithandplace.org, click donate. Thank you in advance for your donation. I also want to let you know that you can win a $100 gift card to Earth Hero. Earth Hero is an online market working to create a healthier planet by completing our sponsor passport and our summit survey. We want to hear from you, and when we hear from you, you get a chance to win this $100 gift card to Earth Hero. You can learn more through the link in the chat. Tonight's session and all the sessions this week are being recorded and will be available along with all the resources shared after the summit on greenteamsummit.org as well. And now I want to welcome to the stage Faith and Places Board Chair, Karen Lewis, who will help us honor the original peoples of the land on which we live. Karen?
Thank you, Brian, and welcome everyone. I'm Karen Lewis, Board Chair of Faith and Place. I am honored to be joining you on this healing journey and want to take a moment to honor the ancestral heritage of the land many of us are on tonight. This land acknowledgement will recognize Native people from the Illinois area. But if you are joining from elsewhere, we invite you to check out the resource linked in the chat to learn about the Native communities on whose land your home resides. Faith and Place works throughout the current state of Illinois, which is comprised of the ancestral lands of the Peoria, Kaskaskia, Miami, Mascouten, Meskwaki, Odawa, Piankashaw, Wea, Sauk, Potawatomi, Kickapoo, Ojibwe, and Chickasaw nations. These nations were forcibly removed from their homeland and now fight to survive and maintain their identity. We strive to acknowledge and address the violence and colonization in which our modern society is rooted. Now, I'm overjoyed to introduce Veronica Kyle, Faith and Place's statewide outreach director. Veronica will be leading tonight's keynote panel on hearing from an eco-womanist perspective. But before I turn it over to Veronica, I want to take a moment to celebrate her. Veronica is retiring this month after 13 incredible years with Faith and Place. Veronica has inspired Faith and Place's growth and passion for justice since her early days. We are so incredibly grateful for her visionary leadership and send her into retirement with blessings and love. Veronica, the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Wow, Karen, thank you for that introduction. A lot of friends here and new friends, and I am delighted and super proud and emotional. This is the 6th Green Team Summit, and at this point, due to some really positive things that you will learn about shortly, this is my last as a staff person. It has been, as Karen said, an incredible journey. I have learned so much, I've grown so much. And as a result of that, I was able to begin to think about some things that matter to me. And this was a new chapter for me to begin to bring some of those into fruition. So before I go into those, one of the things I've been asked a lot on this journey with staff and other people, and the title of this plenary is, what is eco-womanism? Who calls themselves an eco-womanist? Well, I'm glad you asked. The term womanism was coined by none other than Alice Walker and also Black female theologians. It's a term that many of us embody for both the Black physical as well as our spirituality and the lens in which we look at justice throughout not only our lives, but our community and the world at large, as well as our natural and built environment. Eco-womanism, that term, and eco-memory, was one that was coined by a scholar, Melanie Harris, who wrote a book on eco-womanism and eco-memory. There are quite a bit of literature out there, and I would suggest after tonight, if you are interested in diving deeper into the reality of eco-womanism, and you would reach out and purchase one of these books. We don't have our own yet. I am going to do that, Valerie and I, but in the meantime, support these Black women authors who have written about this. So I would also like to spend a little time sharing a 2-minute video narrated by my wonderful co-founder and co-visionary and myself, Valerie Hill Ross, who is here on the Zoom with us, cheering us on. So without further ado, this will explain to you how Valerie and I view and look at eco-womanism.
From the GED to the PhD, she comes with skills and will to make the best of any situation and circumstance. An eco-womanist is a beautician and a physician, the teacher and the preacher. She's the helper and the healer, the artist and the architect, the judge and the jeweler. She's the waitress and the warrior, the mama and definitely the manager. Anything and everything that defines her Black, liberated, I'm only here to make a better self. Her altars and prayer closets are sacred spaces where she meets the spirits of her ancestors and other deities of her choosing.
To keep from losing my damn mind completely, I'm imposing a lethal dose of soul care and self-care practices wrapped in a huge bow of gratitude for what really matters right about now. Morning smoothies, qigong, journaling, and big girl coloring books. Meditation and self-massages on a regular. It's COVID, And one thing I know for sure, the trees gonna keep swinging, the sun gonna keep shining, the birds gonna keep singing, the moon gonna keep glistening and gleaming, and we gonna be all right. My garden gonna smell good and sweet. My love making has intensified. Much gratitude to the ancestors who gifted us with the spirit of showing up anyhow. I forgot how juicy this was. Love it, love it, love it. I hope you did. You get an idea that for us, eco-womanism is all inclusive. We embrace both our natural self, our spiritual self, our physical self, our community. And just to be clear, we don't exclude the brothers. We are as liberated as the Black men, the brown men, our sons, our daughters, our uncles, our fathers. And when necessary, we reach across and we invite our sisters and brothers from another mother to join us for the cause of getting things done. How did the Eco-Womanist Institute ever come to be? When Faith brought Valerie and I together a few years back, we were sitting at her kitchen table, and hold that thought, because that's what we do as Black women. We sit at the kitchen table, that's our boardroom. And we began to think about, what is it that we needed on our professional journey? particularly in the sustainable environmental arena. We laughed, we cried, we cussed and we fussed about the journey, the bitter and the sweet. And we also lifted up the triumphs and the overcoming of challenges. And we began to think about what would happen if we were to start to think about those 19th century club women. Got to study about that if you don't know. We're standing on their shoulders. We got up that morning and we began to talk about creating a space. And at that time, it wasn't just virtual, it was physical. This was before COVID, and we began to think about this, where we would have young and not so young, early and middle management, and even our age women, we call ourselves modern elders, you know, who would have this safe place, Black and brown, to come for our truth telling, support, networking, decompressing, sharing our fears, our frustrations, our triumphs, affirming one another. And so we drafted a vision and mission statement, and Brian, we began to list how we would create and implement our theory of change. What would that change be? To make Black and brown women in a sustainable world, particularly those who sit at the table sometimes alone, feel that they're okay, that they're enough, and that they weren't just there to check the box off for diversity, but their voices were really heard and respected. So I like to describe the Eco-Womanist coming to life. Both of us were pregnant with this possibility. See, that's a womanist lens. And we began to midwife this birth. And now we're co-parenting it and continuing to develop the success, the small and the mighty successes, the big successes. And we do this with a small group of committed individuals, volunteers, a few staff, and a few contract workers. And we do this sometimes, unfortunately, the way women of color and people of color have to do in the not-for-profit world, with little or no resources. Now, I'm not complaining, I'm just venting right now. That very often we do what we have to do because it needs to be done. But we're very faithful that the Eco-Womanist Institute will continue to grow and be all that it needs to be. And if you want to learn more about us, you can get on our website and our social media sites, learn about our programs. So now what you've been waiting for, we call these kitchen table talks. And we started a program, a fellowship program. And when we talked at the table about what this fellowship program would look like, we wanted to be able to identify women who had visions beyond their resources and means to get some things done. So our inaugural fellows program involved two women, one in the Midwest in Chicago, Mila Kellen Marshall, who used her fellowship to resurrect and produce her own TV show called Living Chicago. We helped Mila recently shoot her summer version on water and sustainable issues in Chicago, and we look forward to hearing more about that production, and hopefully you will be seeing it soon. You will also see Mila later in this summit because she will be leading the yoga session. And in Atlanta, in the Southeast region, where Valerie is located, my co-founder and co-visionary, we have Cicely Garrett. Cicely wanted to use her fellowship to create an emerging leaders mentoring program and a curriculum that supported each of the early mid-career Black and brown women working on sustainable issues in their profession. The Emerging Leaders Mentoring Program recently graduated our first 10 cohorts, 10 women, amazing women, who spent 5 months working with Cicely, guest speakers, curriculum, and other awesome pieces of that program. Each time Valerie and I were invited to join the kitchen table talk sessions of the emerging leaders, we were filled with affirmation that what we had brought into existence and to support fellows like Cicely and Mila was worth the journey. This evening, you will meet 4 of the graduates, And together we will share some of the questions and inquiries that we're often asked as eco-women. And we're often asked at the table. So without further ado, I would like each of them to introduce themselves and tell each of you a little bit about what they do, their organization, and how they felt led to create them. And we will start with Andrea, and then Kim, Nicole, and Ratasha.
Thank you. I'm so honored. Can you hear me okay?
Just speak up just a little bit, Andrea.
Okay, is that better? Can you all hear me now? All right, awesome. I'm so honored to be here. Peace to everyone. So I'm Andrea Blanton. I'm a daughter of porch chats in Chicago, Illinois. I learned about racial differences in Phoenix, Arizona, and I became a woman down here in the dirty South in Atlanta, Georgia. My company is Food Earth Birth. It's a small company that I nurture, and it's rooted in Southern seasonality, natural traditions, and education. So I offer earth-based services for those who want to obtain a natural lifestyle via small batch herbal offerings, school garden education, and I offer natural birth work to expecting families. I felt led to share my offerings under one umbrella. I was battling a pretty harsh postpartum phase. The world seemed upside down, and a sister friend, similar to Valerie and Veronica coming together, a sister friend came to me and said, "Hey, I think I need to take you to an urban farm and see what happens." So I went with her, and from there, my own healing world just opened up. And I was led and destined to interact with growers, students, and mothers in the garden. So that's how Food Earth Birth came to be.
Kim, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you, Veronica. And just want to say a quick note. The Eco-Womanist Institute changed my life and my perspective. I am Kimmie Gordon. I am founder and director of Brown Faces Green Spaces. We are an organization, a 501c3 here in Northwest Indiana. And our mission and purpose is to diversify and justify our places as persons of color in the outdoors. The last 2 years have been amazing. For 15 years, I have been an eco-womanist and never even knew it until I was introduced to the concept through the Eco-Womanist Institute and the cohort, and collaborating with 10 amazing women across the U.S. who have given me so much insight on the areas in which I, need to appreciate within myself as a Black woman and as an environmentalist. And I'm a graduate of Indiana University School of Public and Environmental Affairs with my master's degree in public administration and environmental policy. It has always been kind of an undertow in my mind to create an organization where people of color can be represented in the outdoors and in the sector of environmental justice in the city that I live, which is Gary, Indiana, in the Chicagoland region. We are Whiting, Hammond, South Chicago, East Chicago, and Gary, Indiana, on through our ties with Michigan City. It's been an amazing 2 years of just being in it for so long and finally having a seat at the table and recognizing my worth and value as a Black woman in the environmental sector. I've crossed many feats, and I have a lot to share with my community, with urban, communities and environmental justice. I am grateful to be here and thankful to Veronica Kyle and Valerie Rawls for creating the Eco-Womanist Institute, and being able to get in touch with the spiritual side of why my purpose and mission exists here across the U.S. So thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kimmie. And can we go with Nicole? Then
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Jackson. I use she, her pronouns. I am actually based in Columbus, Ohio, but I am from Cleveland, Ohio. So if anyone's from the Cleveland area, thanks for joining us this evening for this wonderful panel discussion. So I started out in the environmental education field, informal environmental education. I've been doing that for the past 10 years and working, for nonprofits, summer camps, after school programs within Cleveland area, as well as Columbus area of Ohio. I am also a bird watcher, so I've been doing that for the past decade as well, and love nature and birds. My relationship with nature started at a very young age from unfortunate trauma that I went through as a young girl growing up in inner city Cleveland, but it gave me hope and inspiration to move forward and expand my ideas to connect other Black and Brown people to nature and showcase its benefits. So my In Her Nature business essentially is promotes nature therapy for Black women, and it focuses on nature as a tool to help rebuild us, heal us, and help us find purpose. So with that, I'm hoping to connect more Black women to nature as a form of healing, but also education, just to kind of reconnect us back to understanding ourselves better and our strengths as Black women, but also helping us reconnect with the land that has given us so much. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm super excited to be here with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Ratasha.
Hey there. My name is Ratasha Elise, and I am living and working on the unceded Occaneechi-Saponi land that we now call Durham, North Carolina. And my organization is Chocolate Soul Revival. It's a healing justice organization that is committed to the transformation, the liberation, and the healing, centering Black women and gender expansive people. And the thing that called me to create the organization is being an activist and knowing that there are spaces to do the external facing work of justice and liberation, but not as many spaces to work on the internal part of transforming trauma and oppression and turning it into power and clarity that moves from the inside out.
Thank you. So I hope those of you who are at our kitchen table right now understand that one of the primary things about an eco-womanist is about her healing ability of both herself, her community, and our natural world. And it's not that other people don't do it, but we know we need to do it. We know that, research proves that the African-American woman has probably been one of the most misused, overused, and abused human beings on the planet. And while we don't wallow in that as a victim, we do own it and honor it and realize that we're probably going to have to be the ones to heal ourselves as we continue to work to heal the planet as well. So tonight, there's a few questions that they're going to be asked and sharing about the environment and being rooted in healing and this theme and what it is through an eco-womanist lens that they feel that needs to happen and what they need to do. So I'm going to start to put these questions out here, and with the hope that when you leave this kitchen table, you will know a little bit more about who they are, who we are, who the Eco-Womanist Institute is. We have women, as you can see, from across various states, including Illinois, that are part of the Institute. And I want to repeat this. This is a space that not only has been a safe space, but a protected space, but also a healing space. So this is the reason I hope and think we were invited to be at the table tonight. So I want to throw out a question to the panelists. When you define, how do you define yourself as an eco-womanist? Some of that you shared, but how do you connect yourself between eco-womanism and eco-spirituality? How do you make the connection? And on a regular basis, as you address, you mentioned personal trauma, community trauma, worldwide trauma, how do you address that? Now, I'm gonna have to time you all, to get all these voices, because at a real kitchen table talk, just so that people would know, we would all be talking over each other. It's called gumbo yaya. And all the Black women be talking and we'd hear everybody and then we say something real loud and listen, but we aren't gonna do that tonight. So if I go on to the next person, we might circle back, but I wanna start with you, Nicole. I'd like to just ask you that question about the healing. You talked about your own trauma, and how do you make that connection between eco-womanism, eco-spirituality, and healing?
Yeah, so I mentioned just my connection with nature started through my trauma as a young girl, growing up in inner city Cleveland, and just thinking about my family and those dynamics. I have 10 siblings. I was raised by a single parent. My mom is in her 50s with 11 children, and she had a hard time raising us growing up, but she taught us about resilience and pushing through and making a way with whatever you have. So for me growing up, it was really hard to find at a time in my life, going back a little bit, I was in foster care, and I was unfortunately abused while I was in foster care with one of my older siblings, and I sought refuge in nature. I sought understanding identity, my role in this world a lot through my nature connections, and really understanding what my place was, because I felt hopeless, I felt scared, I felt not safe, unnurtured, and nature was able to provide those things for me. So it helped me really understand that as a human being, as a young Black girl, that I can reach out and get that nurturing and care from nature in a way that would build me up, and be able to share that with others.
Thank you. Thanks, Nicole. I almost called her Nikki. Her professional name is Nicole. She makes it clear. I can call her Nikki offline, so don't call her Nikki. Ratasha, you want to share a little bit of your eco-spirituality and healing journey, how nature's played a part?
Sure, yes. For me, it's about knowing that not only is my relationship with the earth absolutely essential and foundational, but that is a part of my identity, that I get to experience and know myself as living, walking, breathing, talking earth. And so that gives me access to all the powers of creation, all the powers of healing and transformation. And it informs my whole worldview and how I look at everything, to be a part of this living organism.
I love that, access to all that nature has to offer. That in itself is pretty powerful, because that has not always been the reality of Black people, feeling that they had access to all of it. And the fact that you can own that and reclaim that and be reminded that that's the way nature intended it to be, that we would have access to heal and use and enjoy, but not destroy nature. Andrea, what about you?
Yeah, so being an eco-womanist to me embraces my lucid dreaming, walks in nature, or weeding the garden as a meditation. It's spreading the healing gospel of Mother Earth, and rejecting the world as it is. It's allowed me to have a voice. It's added to my expression, and to feel like I have a right in doing so. The eco-womanist to me just trusts the environment's intelligence and continual healing despite the human degenerative ways that we have become so comfortable or created some sort of cognitive dissonance to. And just like Ratasha and Nicole said, when you become an eco-womanist and it's like superpower in a sense that you're like, I can't turn my head away from that. I have to continually commune with nature, commune with earth. It's like a consciousness that has like awakened in me, and I'm able to understand the cycles of time, understand the cycles of nature and seasons, and actually embrace that and use it as a form of sleeping when I need to, going into that winter slumber, rising in the spring and blooming into something beautiful for the spring and like full expression in the summer. So it's really given me a sense of time, a sense of the power of healing, in the eyes to see what's not right with the world and be confident in that.
Love it. And I can so relate to that. Both of my children were conceived during the spring. Too much information, but I'm telling you that because I think my connection to nature is so connected to spring. I'm a whole different person when spring comes compared to fall. And so I can so relate to what you're saying. Kimmie, do you have anything you want to share with that? Otherwise, we can move on to the next question.
I would. Thank you, Veronica. I think as an eco-womanist early on, as a Girl Scout, taking the oath to honor and obey and live by the Girl Scout law to protect mankind and to serve. And that has become, who I am in life, being one with the earth and understanding the culture and heritage of my ancestors within it, and using the healing power of natural spaces as early as 6-7 years old to overcome and persevere. Because in nature, everything's quiet, everything's fine, being a balance, and you become centered when you know how to. And I think teaching as a leader and as an eco-womanist, or innately just as a nature person, knowing the healing power of nature and being able to tap into it for healing purposes. It's all around us. It's all around us. And as individuals, as women, as nurturers of the earth and children and families, we're, it's almost mandatory on a daily basis from sun up to sundown that we're taking care of everyone. And we must take care of ourselves. And in taking care of ourselves, we have to find that balance. I found my balance in nature at a very early age, and I took an oath to do it. And it's to protect not just myself, but for the women around me and the families and children that I serve. So that's kind of where I am with it. Yeah.
Thank you. And this whole reality of our children, I guess that's that's probably one of the main reasons you created, Brown Faces in Green Spaces. Kimmie's organization works with families in Indiana and Illinois. She's right next door, our neighbors in Gary. You mentioned like at an early age, and I hope those of us who are on this call and at this kitchen table conversation understand the responsibility that we have to our children to create this legacy of loving nature and appreciating and respecting nature. And we can't ever, ever forget that. It's so important, and particularly now when we see such degradation with nature. I want to move on and talk about, from this eco-womanist lens, one of the things that we are passionate about at Faith in Place is environmental justice and environmental equity. And what does that look like to have equity and justice and equality around the environment and environmental resources? What do we need to do? What do you see that, keeps you up at night? And what, ideas do you think, an inspiration you might have that we might begin to shift this paradigm from an eco-womanist lens, share it with others? I want to start with you, Ratasha?
Well, when I think about environmental justice and equity, again, I think about relationship, knowing that we're in relationship with a part of ourselves when we see ourselves as part of the living earth. And I think about the indigenous people around the globe who stewarded land for generations, for hundreds of years, in some cases, thousands of years. And that, that those are the people who have all this historical knowledge about how to move forward with the healing and how to restore balance, the balance that has been, upset in recent years.
Anybody else want to join in with that? How do we do this? How do we begin to think about environmental justice?
Ms. B, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
And so I think the key for me with the organization is learning the community, learning the bureaucracy, which is not always easy, but learning how it flows, from city to city within the region, learning the bureaucracy, learning the community, learning the needs of the people. And also, I think the advantage that someone like myself has had is living in a polluted area, blocks, growing up as a kid from a dump on blocks away, learning how it affects people and our senior citizens that grow up on the block. They're all gone by the age of 70. And what ails our community? That challenges bureaucracy and learning how to be assertive enough to understand and teach and give knowledge to an urban community who would not otherwise have that knowledge of how things go as far as urban communities. We are there's a dichotomy there with urban communities and pollutants and air quality, water quality, industry, manufacturing. We're always the last ones to get these big deal industries like casinos, which we just got, but to get trucking companies because we're trying to sell our land for cheap and we're poor and we need money. I think it's up to someone just to stand up and tell people in the community and neighboring residents that this is what's going down. This is how we fight it. This is how we become aware and more knowledgeable about the air quality, water quality, demanding water quality reports and, daily water quality assessments, just like any other city. I think urban city residents, we don't, as a culture, understand the value of knowing those numbers, knowing that knowledge, and we get the raw end of the stick every time when it comes to selling out our land to industry and allowing our administration to do it. So I think knowledge is the key.
Thanks, Kim. I don't mean to cut you off, but there's a question in the chat that I think is important for all of us. And Kim, we're getting some feedback from you and some crackling. I just want to point that out. The question comes from Sister Sandra. She said, yes, we need to do these things, but how do we take care of the community, our children, and also have some soul-care and self-care for ourselves? This is such an Eco-Womanist Institute reality, right, women? My co-visionary Valerie knows the soul-care and self-care is one of the reasons that we invented and created this institute. Just so you'll know, Sandra, we have a house in Chicago where people can come and take a nap, read a book, curl up, cry, take a bath, try that. I've had women on this journey who've come and said, can I just get and just take a bath? And we have Turkish bathrobes for that, right? And we sit at a kitchen table and we have these conversations, but we also break bread together. But I would like to ask if Andrea could join in to answer that question. you've talked a lot about self-care before. I'd love to hear you and Kim's thought on that. Sandra, that was a great question, because I think those of us on the journey, male or female, it gets tiresome, it gets lonely. And if we don't take care of ourselves, it's like on the plane, if we don't put the air on for us, we won't be able to save anybody else. So Andrea, do you, or Nikki, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. I think back about the months before COVID hit, I have 4 children, 10, 12, 3, and 5. I managed one of the largest farmers markets here in Atlanta, Grant Park Farmers Market at the time. I had about 50 vendors, 2,000 visitors per Sunday during COVID. We pivoting, we were doing online market sales, face-to-face. People didn't want to wear masks, didn't want to sanitize. But long story short is, in the home by myself, so I'm the only parent in the home. I ended up with a horrible eye infection for about 6 weeks, to the point where my eyes were almost closed shut. And the eye specialist, I asked her, I said, well, what caused it to be so bad? It started off as just a regular pink eye infection. She said, it's stress, and you need to take time to yourself. So although I've been in nature, although I've been gardening, although I teach mothers how to relax before birth, although my sister friends and I cook for each other and go harvest fresh food and make fresh dishes for each other and for others, I really wasn't taking time to myself, but they brought me down to size to realize I have to carve out time. What does that look like? We have to use our voice and say, before I sacrifice myself, I have to take care of myself. So from that, I tell the children, I'm done, lights off, y'all fed, take care of yourself. I'm going to my room, don't bother me. It's either taking a shower, taking a nice bath, reading something for 10 minutes, journaling for 5 minutes. I think being in the EWI, the ELM program, they even reinforce that soul care. So for me, although I got inklings of cut it off, take care of yourself now, others still have to reinforce. So creating a circle or community of people, although you have family who say, I need this, or they always calling you, also create or have that support system that says, hey sis, have you taken a breather yet? Have you sat down? Have you eaten? Can I bring you a fresh juice? So finding those people who can support you in that way and not just extract or expect from you, but who want to pour into you.
I really appreciate that. Nikki, unless you have something that you really you're burning to say, I'm gonna move us on, because speaking of self-care and balance, we got another exercise to do. Yes, Nikki.
Yes. I just want to add to that and the importance of rest. And really, when you say, Andrea, taking time for yourself, that is sleep, but also being able to, like you were saying, journal, read a book, take a nap. Like with birding and being outdoors and me doing that, I commit myself to that practice of slowing down, and bird watching is a form of that. And it reminds me that I can take a break from all the craziness of life. I do recommend nature naps. So if anybody is looking to rest, nature naps are awesome. So just, the importance of getting outside of that mindset of grind culture and feeling like you always have to be busy, but like we should incorporate rest into that quote unquote busyness, just as any other practice or thing that we put on our schedule. That should be just as important.
Right, thank you for this. I have several authors that have talked about, womanist authors, about rest as a form of resistance, particularly for women, and more importantly, for Black and brown women, that this idea of rest, we feel so guilty to even think about it. There is one burning question that, as we talked about this rooted in healing theme, we talked about, and Valerie, you would appreciate this, how do we heal the land? How do we begin to think about the land? And I couldn't help but, ladies, but think about the landmark settlement for the Black farmers that has just come to pass. And even though we are concerned if even a large percentage of those farmers will ever see any money, how do we begin to think about justice and equity and healing when we think about the land? And we're not only us in the land, but also healing the land itself, land ownership, land stewardship. From an eco-womanist view, how do we look at that land? Andrea, you're nodding. Nicole, Ratasha, who wants to jump at this? Our land is crying out. How do we as eco-wominists?
I would say the memories, like the land remembers all of the trauma. And that's something we need to acknowledge, that it just doesn't, soil blows away. We work the land, those memories for the land of trauma and oppression don't go away. And a part of that, I think, is grief. Like, are we even grieving for the things that have been lost?
Nicole, you're
sorry. Grieving and being able to think about the things that we've lost with land, but also acknowledging that it's still able to provide us with food, shelter, all of these things we don't really think about on a regular basis, but it's so essential. Like Ratasha was saying, like life is Earth is a life force, so it's constantly sacrificing. It's constantly giving us what we need, but then are we giving that in return? And part of it, that is the memories, the trauma of what has already been done to the land.
Yeah, Melanie Harris talks about eco-memory. Your own ecological memory, and some of that is bittersweet when we think about the eco-memory of the land. Nicole, that's pretty powerful. The land does not forget. The land actually pays us back for the things that we do to it, bitter or sweet. Wouldn't you agree? Anybody else want to, take a stab at that before we move on to Andrea?
Real quick. My view of the land is we should all return to it in some capacity, right? If it's in the front yard or if you're in the courtyard, in the garden or farm, just go and sit or touch. But what brought me to that reality is that even though there's been so much trauma, there is so much capacity to heal. When I told my grandmother that I was a new garden educator, she said, why you want to do that? We left the South to get away from picking cotton. I grew up picking cotton up until high school. So for her, I triggered something in her, but for me, when I went out into the garden spaces, I felt like my work was a salve, not just for myself, but for our ancestral line. So just seeing the land differently. Oh, there's a little playback. The land connection to me isn't just singular. Like we said, there's a kaleidoscope of experiences. So there are so many young adults and mature adults who want to return to the land, right? What does that look like? Like you expressed, that there's farmers who are still fighting to get justice for the land that was wrongfully taken from them. But for those of us who might have lost ancestral land or never been connected, or for the indigenous people who are still, saying we still have land that you all are on, to me, it's like we have to collectively steward that and to share the healing wonders of communal and cooperative land stewardship. And I believe like an organization like EWY, people need to just go ahead, drop some bread, and fund organizations who've already done this work, who might not have a physical land at this space, but have a spiritual land in a political scope to ensure that the land is stewarded peacefully and cooperative.
Thank you. And with that, I cannot believe we are at the end of our discussion. But we would be remiss not to do the one healing practice to introduce that many of the eco-womanists on this panel have talked about, and we at the Institute totally believe in, and that is journaling. Journaling is such a powerful way of preserving our stories, our words, something that very often Black and Brown people weren't able to do. Everything was an oral tradition. So if I can get the journaling questions put in the chat, you won't finish these now, but I hope you will take them. I hope you will work on them throughout these days of the summit and beyond. What is your earliest eco memory? And if you have your pen and paper, start writing it right now. or the encounter when both your physical and spiritual self knew that you and nature were connected? Was it bitter or a sweet memory? What did you take away from that experience? During these extremely challenging times, how do you engage in soul care and self-care? Sandra, there's that question. What role does nature play in your soul care and self-care practices? And if it's not, how can you begin to do that? Write about a time you pushed past your comfort zone and experienced being the other in someone else's space. How did you feel? Were you made to feel welcome, uncomfortable? What impression has it left with you that you are still carrying for better or for worse? We will not heal our common home if we don't push from our comfort zone. Reach across boundaries of comfort where we've drawn these invisible lines and ask the other, your brother, your sister, to join you in being a part of the healing journey. Nature is calling on us, good people, crying out, and we see it every day on the news. We have got to become the healers we were meant to be. We've got to make amends for the things that we have done. So I thank you. I thank the panel. I thank all 257 of you who joined us for this session. And if you want to know more about us, the Eco-Womanist Institute, the work of Faith in Place and what we're all doing about rooting and being healing, and how we heal, how we grow and learn together, please don't hesitate to reach out. And with that, I'm going to be turning this over to our Central Illinois Outreach Director, Reverend Cindy Shepard, who will be introducing the Green Team Awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you so much. I'm Cindy Shepard, Faith in Place's Central Illinois Outreach Director. I want to thank the wonderful panel assembled by my magnificent colleague, Veronica Kyle. You know, one of Veronica's lasting gifts to Faith in Place is the Green Team model for organizing people of faith. Green teams are groups of 3 or more people at a house of worship dedicated to connecting the community with education and advocacy around the environment. And one of my favorite parts of our Green Team Summits is the time when we recognize outstanding green teams from across the state of Illinois, and this time for the first time from across the IPL network. It's my privilege this evening to introduce and celebrate 6 green teams who have done outstanding work in healing earth and community in 2021. These teams have found new ways to make an impact. They have nurtured earth and one another, and they have, in spite of everything we've gone through, had some fun. So we ask each Green Team award-winning team to speak for themselves, to answer the question, why does your green team rock? And here are their answers.
I'm Princess Harris, the Sustainable Food and Land Use Coordinator at Faith in Place. And today I am with Alvin Walker.
Very honored and glad to be the recipient for the Faith in Place Green Team Summit Leader for this year. So we would like to welcome you, first of all, to our garden here at the Windsor Park Evangelical Lutheran Church at the corner of 76th and Saginaw. We've been here at the garden now, gardening continuously since 2013. We have been doing the rain barrel programming now for the past 4 years. We are able to collect over 500 gallons of water every rainy season, and then we're able to use that to water the garden. We have plots that are community and congregation member led. We like to also introduce nature into the space. We are growing milkweed, which is what the butterflies like. We also have introduced bees into the garden. So that's the next venture we're going to be exploring, is how to harvest honey.
Hi, I'm John Katz-Mariani from Congregation Or Shalom. This past spring, during our second annual Environmental Shabbat service, from kids to grandparents, we focused our attention on the language in our prayers that so clearly expresses our connectedness to nature. We read Native American poetry and shared personal reflections, at once healing us and also exhorting us all to align our actions with our words. So, why does our green team rock? These are our native plant gardens. Thank you, Art, Tanya, and Todd. This is our bike rack. Thank you, Sandy. This is our kindly limit your idling sign. Thank you, Lee. These are some of the plants we put in during our Earth Day celebration. Thank you, Eliana, Nina, et al. Here is our styrofoam collection box for recycling. Thank you, Mickey. These are our compostable plates and cups. Thank you, fundraisers Sarah, Charlene, and many more. And thank you, Faith in Place, for all your support and all that you do.
First Presbyterian Church has a real deep commitment to caring for all of God's creation and all of God's community. And that commitment includes an ongoing effort here at the church to reduce energy use, reduce waste, landscape with sustainable practices, and with native plants. And we're continuing toward a large solar installation here on the property that will eventually provide renewable energy for our church. Our annual rummage sale keeps a lot of usable items out of landfills, gives them a new life, and the proceeds from that benefit local organizations, local missions, and local green initiatives. And some of that money even went to purchase these really cool reusable shopping bags. Now, our efforts here at First Pres may be small, our efforts at reducing, reusing, planting, and connecting, but they're part of a much bigger effort at caring for and healing this earth and this community.
Princess Harris, the Sustainable Food and Land Use Coordinator at Faith in Place. And today I am with Alvin Walker.
Very honored and glad to be the recipient for the Faith in Place Green Team Summit Leader for this year. So we would like to welcome you, first of all, to our garden here at the Windsor Park Evangelical Lutheran Church at the corner of 76th and Saginaw. We've been here at the garden now, gardening continuously since 2013. We have been doing the rain barrel programming now for the past 4 years. We are able to collect over 500 gallons of water every rainy season, and then we're able to use that to water the garden. We have plots that are community and congregation member led. We like to also introduce nature into the space. We are growing milkweed, which is what the butterflies like. We also have introduced bees into the garden. So that's the next venture we're going to be exploring, is how to harvest honey.
Hi, I'm John Katzmariani from Congregation Or Shalom. This past spring, during our second annual Environmental Shabbat service, from kids to grandparents, we focused our attention on the language in our prayers that so clearly expresses our connectedness to nature. We read Native American poetry and shared personal reflections, at once healing us and also exhorting us all to align our actions with our words. So, why does our green team rock? These are our native plant gardens. Thank you, Art, Tanya, and Todd. This is our bike rack. Thank you, Sandy. This is our kindly limit your idling sign. Thank you, Lee. These are some of the plants we put in during our Earth Day celebration. Thank you, Eliana, Nina, et al. Here is our styrofoam collection box for recycling. Thank you, Mickey. These are our compostable plates and cups. Thank you, fundraisers Sarah, Charlene, and many more. And thank you, Faith in Place, for all your support and all that you do.
First Presbyterian Church has a real deep commitment to caring for all of God's creation and all of God's community. And that commitment includes an ongoing effort here at the church to reduce energy use, reduce waste, landscape with sustainable practices, and with native plants. And we're continuing toward a large solar installation here on the property that will eventually provide renewable energy for our church. Our annual rummage sale keeps a lot of usable items out of landfills, gives them a new life, and the proceeds from that benefit local organizations, local missions, and local green initiatives. And some of that money even went to purchase these really cool reusable shopping bags. Now, our efforts here at First Pres may be small. Our efforts at reducing, reusing, planting, and connecting but they're part of a much bigger effort at caring for and healing this earth and this community.
Let's have a round of cheers and applause for these inspiring people of faith who are rooted for healing of the earth and community. Great. Weren't those awesome? We would also like to honor and celebrate some of the people who have made Faith in Places work especially impactful this year. And let me turn it over to Executive Director Brian Souter to announce our Legacy Award.
All right, I just got chills, just seeing a glimpse of all the amazing work to our green teams. Congratulations from me and all of Faith in Place to you all. And this is chills from our amazing panel. I mean, shout out to the amazing Eco-Womanists who came together at the kitchen table, allowed us to listen in, be inspired. That is absolutely phenomenal. And shout out to Veronica Kyle for all your work. This is a surprise award that we're about to give, and I want to just give away the surprise right away by inviting our spotlighter to bring Veronica Kyle up to the stage at this point. Veronica, I would like to present you with this award. It came in the mail. Can you all see this? How beautiful it is. It reflects your magnificence. It says here, the 2021 Legacy Award is presented to Veronica Kyle, our modern elder and visionary change maker. For those of you who maybe don't know, Veronica and I've had the privilege of working under Veronica's mentorship for the last 11 years. When I joined Faith in Place, Veronica was already shaping the programs of Faith in Place, molding them, shaping them, building them. And now to see Veronica retiring, it's a moment of celebration. And it's a moment of sending, and it's a moment of tears of sadness as we launch Veronica into this new season. And is by the power of me as Executive Director of Faith in Place that I'm giving Veronica the emeritus title at Faith in Place of Modern Elder, as commissioned by this very award that I'll give to you, Veronica, at your going away party when we send you. But please, I see you're already doing it. Join me in celebrating the legacy of Veronica, wishing her the best. You all know from what you saw tonight that the Eco-Womanist Institute is not only already changing the world, but it's going to blow up. right, is going to blow up and continue to change the world and empower eco-womanists everywhere to lead for healing of what we want to see. So join me all in giving a big thanks to Veronica Kyle. Veronica, you know I love you. And then at this time, I want to introduce, as I give Veronica a big virtual hug here, send her off the stage. We want to introduce another important award that we do every year. We honor a funder who has stepped up and really helped us go above and beyond in doing and accomplishing our mission. You all know that without the generous donations of individuals, of our foundation partners, we can't do this good work to the extent that we do it. And so we're just so thankful for our foundations who step up. 2020 was a unbelievably tough year to run an organization, and we're so thankful for the funders who stepped up and made it possible for us to continue to advance our mission of healthier communities, continue to help us connect the dots between mass incarceration, the impacts of COVID-19, racism that's happening, and environmental justice. And to introduce this year's Funder Award, let me turn it back over to Reverend Cindy Shepard.
Thank you, Brian. This year, our Funder of the Year award goes to the Lumpkin family and their foundation. The Lumpkin family and foundation were the very first funders that I ever met when I joined Faith in Place in Central Illinois. And I was so surprised and pleased when it turns out that funders are people. And the Lumpkin people have patiently supported Faith in Place's work in expanding green teams. They have introduced us to other groups and individuals who were focused on the vision of a healthier and greener Illinois, especially a more sustainable and fair food system. And this year, their support was especially crucial as the pandemic exposed cruel inequities in food access, and families around the state faced empty cupboards and tables. The Lumpkin Foundation joined Faith in Place to strengthen the network of helpers who rose up with creative solutions to address food insecurity. And we will always treasure the relationships made possible by the foundation's support, and of course, the Lumpkin family and their hardworking foundation staff. Please join me in a round of virtual applause for our very real funder of 2021, the Lumpkin Family Foundation. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Cindy. Am I able to speak for a second?
Of course.
Okay, I just want to say on behalf of our board and the members of the Lumpkin Family Foundation, thank you very much for this recognition. We really don't feel like it's necessary, but thank you. And our foundation's mission, as you know, is to support people in building healthy, sustainable communities. And we couldn't do this without organizations like yours. So we are proud of our association with Faith in Place and impressed by your accomplishments in the region for more than 10 years. And we look forward to seeing what Faith in Place will accomplish over the next 10 years. So thank you all very much for all your work.
Thank you so much. And just like that, our first evening is over, or getting close anyway. We want to thank again the Lumpkin Family Foundation, our amazing green teams, and each of you for joining us at the first night at the Green Team Summit. As we close, I want to share a poem written by an eco-womanist, Melanie Harris. You are deeply rooted in the earth. Her amazing grace flows through you. Her divine breath breathes through you. As wide as the rivers run and as far as oceans go, you are deeply one with earth community. You are rooted in the earth, and earth rooted in you. This week, we will continue to connect with this divine breath, honoring it in ourselves and each other. Tonight and during each of our sessions, we will be sharing a link that includes a lot of the resources related to our topics, as well as ways to get involved with Faith in Place. Tonight's page includes more information on eco-womanism, and as well as how to start a green team, a free guide for healing with journaling, and much more. I also want to highlight that we have a chance for everyone to win a fabulous prize, an Earth Hero gift card, by participating in our sponsor passport program this week. Instructions are linked in the chat for you, but basically you visit our sponsor page to see these amazing organizations and businesses that made the week possible, and put the passport codes that you find into the page on the passport form, and everyone that submits that form will be entered to win a $100 gift card from Earth Hero. Earth Hero is an online marketplace working to create a healthier planet. You can also win a prize by completing our event survey after the last session that you are joining. Yet another shout out to our headline sponsor, NRDC, for sponsoring the summit, and to Gaylord and Dorothy Donnelly Foundation for sponsoring tonight's keynote session. Thank you for making such a memorable event possible. And for the rest of you, if you'd like to join and to support the summit, please go to faithinplace.org and click donate. Donations of any amount are greatly appreciated, and we thank you. We hope that you'll join us back here tomorrow evening. We have 2 sessions tomorrow, Healing with Land and Water and Healing with Youth. That first session will start at 5:30 Central Time, and you can access the link to join on the same page that you found the link to join tonight. At 5:30, we're going to go on a meditative forest walk through Heron Pond, and then lift up hopes and prayers and memories in a West African libation ceremony. Then at 7, we'll be back together with our youth for a live compassion workshop led by artist and visionary Cheda Mehta. You can find details about the sessions and our speakers on our website, greenteamsummit.com. On behalf of Faith in Place and our incredible panel tonight, thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And don't forget, it's not too late to invite your friends and family to join us too. Please invite them and tell them to register at greenteamsummit.org. Have a great night, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Good night.